Look, I have worked with guys long enough to know some people have a hell of a time dialing in libido and erections on TRT. And it's for a variety of reasons. But I mean, if you're super frustrated and you've run through a lot of the strategy to get dialed in, or at least a lot of the stuff that's out there otherwise from this channel, there is the technical, effective, easiest way to dial in libido and erections on TRT. Look, the determinant of whether or not a protocol is easy to dial in, like a particular ester is easy to dial in, simply lies in, number one, the half-life of the compound, number two, the simplicity of the protocol. But given that, like, you might think, okay, so just shorter half-life stuff is easier to dial in. Well, kinda, but like phenylpropionate or test suspension is not the easiest way to dial in TRT, because those come with their own fucking problems. They're actually too fast and leave the system too fast. The final factor to determine how easy it is to dial in is when you're making adjustments, how long does it take? Test protocol that takes the shortest to make adjustments and see where you end up is the easiest protocol to dial in libido and erections. You might think, what is it, prop? Is it suspension? Is it phenylpropionate? It's actually just two compounds in a protocol. Let's lay it out. Sit back, relax, strap in. Let's talk about the easiest way to dial in libido and erections on TRT. Let's go. Start the video, guys, real quick. Yeah, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guided sexual dysfunction resolution and performance optimization company. Largely what we do is make products and do coaching to help guys achieve libido and erections on TRT no matter the ester. Right now, coaching, one-on-one coaching with me where I'm designing your protocol, architecting all of the changes and getting libido and erections back to that young man status. 50% off to book me. We're on the fact-finding call within a day and we start. If you're serious about getting libido and erections straight, use the code COACHDISCOUNT. It saves thousands of dollars off of all the coaching programs. BookMeLiveCortex.com. Sourceless if you need access to any anabolic you can think of, including the high-potency DHT gel and anything else that your heart might desire. Just get Sourceless 30% off right now. And lastly, if you have to dial in on Cypionate, I created a course targeting specifically protocols that optimize libido and erections. Get it down below. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, yeah, the determinant of whether or not a protocol is easy to dial in lies in a few things. Number one, the half-life. Number two, the simplicity of the entirety of the protocol. You don't want a protocol that's 5 different compounds if you can avoid that. And number three, how long it actually takes to dial in. To determine what the best protocol is to dial in libido and EQ the fastest, you have to look at half-lives of compounds and when they reach steady state in your blood, meaning the numbers aren't really going to change at that point. You're going to build up until a certain level of testosterone, DHT, and estradiol, and then if you maintain that protocol, they're going to stay there. How long does it take, or how fast is it where you reach that steady state? So the answer to the question of the best protocol to dial in libido and erections, because it's the easiest and quite honestly the fastest, is testosterone scrotal cream and HCG. That's it. You've got simplicity of the protocol, just 2 compounds. Listen, I think everybody should use 20 milligrams DHA a day at least, but regarding the testosterone, the estradiol, and the DHT producing compounds, test cream and HCG. Now, I think, just to add on to that, that you should be using the lowest concentration cream, which is 100 milligrams per milliliter to dial in. That gives you a lot more control over the shorter strokes. You can add another pump, and it's technically only a half pump of like the 200 milligram per milliliter standard stuff. Because again, this is 100 milligrams per milliliter, 10% rather than 200 milligrams per milliliter, 20%. A lot of guys that are pro cream suggest going with the 200 milligram per milliliter stuff, the highest concentration stuff. I do not suggest you do that if you want to dial in libido and erections fast. All right, so let's discuss when you reach steady state and the absolute half-lives of these compounds, and then I'm going to talk about how exactly to dial cream and HCG in. But as we know, with scrotal cream, serum testosterone levels peak within 2 to 6 hours after a single application, with DHT also rising sharply because of all the 5-alpha reductase in the scrotal skin. Bottom line with test cream is you apply it to the scrotum, you're peaking in the hormones that it's producing that day. Because after 24 hours of applying cream, it's not completely out of your system. In those first few days of dosing it, you are overlapping in hormones, because at 24 hours after your last application, you're not completely just devoid of the hormones that you just put in. So you're going to overlap for a couple days until you reach the steady state. The studies and the clinical experience, as well as my experience in coaching and with myself, I've used cream many times. I'm using cream at the moment. Steady state is reached 48 to 72 hours of consistent daily scrotal application. So right then and there, we've got the ester that is the simplest. It is the fastest. There's no needles. There's no, sitting there with like Cypionate having to warm it up because it takes fucking forever to get it in your 5/8 inch needle. There's click, 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 rub cream, apply to the testicles, move on with your day. 2 to 3 days after you start. Say you have 200 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone and you're getting on TRT and you're getting on cream. In 3 days, you'll have reached steady state or close to steady state, right? Case in point about simplicity and the fastest to reach steady state. So in short, with 100 milligrams per milliliter scrotal cream, you're looking at a 2 to 3 day period to reach steady state compared to weeks or more with injectables. Now, let's look at HCG. Half-life of HCG is 24 to 36 hours. Now, this actually depends on the dose. On the lower doses, it's out of your system, meaning the serum of actual human chorionic gonadotropin drops off on lower doses after 24 hours to nearly nothing. Now, a lot of people didn't know this, but the actual testosterone production, although some is probably going to be immediate, increases at its max between 12 and 24 hours post subcutaneous injection of HCG. That is the Leydig cell's response. So there's a little bit of a delay there. Keep that in mind when you're trying to dial in. Now, with repeated daily dosing of HCG, you're looking at 5 to 7 days to reach steady state of the testosterone stimulation. Because again, HCG will accumulate based on its day and a half half-life. So you're going to have some overlap in those first couple days. But at day 5 to day 7, so basically about a week, you're at the steady state of HCG, right? So in 7 days' time with cream and HCG, you're at steady state. Keep in mind, if you inject infrequently with HCG, it takes longer. It takes longer to reach steady state. You're looking at 1 to 2 weeks, possibly even 2.5 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks. So again, HCG is best injected every day to prevent the aromatization peaks. And if you want to stabilize fast, reach steady state fast, do it every day. All right, so the bottom line, testosterone cream, steady state, 2 to 3 days. HCG steady state 5 to 7 days, okay? So a week. You're looking at a week. This is why cream and HCG is the fastest way to dial in libido and erections. That said, though, how do you dial in libido and erections on these very, very fast-reaching steady state compounds? There is a process to this, and here is the process. Number 1, start as low as possible, right? You push like the 100 milligram per milliliter stuff 6 pumps a day, which is the equivalent of 3 pumps of the normal higher concentration stuff, and you might fucking over aromatize. Actually, it's likely, like, you're going to get close to over aromatizing, or you're going to over aromatize. You'll make enough DHT, there's no question, but DHT at a certain point of estradiol cannot counteract in terms of sexual function, that overage in estradiol. I'll give you a few starting points. These aren't necessarily the best, but this is the range of starting points if you're trying to dial in libido and erections on testosterone, cream, 100 milligram per milliliter, and HCG. First, with the cream, start with 4 pumps on the scrotum per day. Okay? You start pushing 5, you start pushing 6 again. Once you reach steady state, you might be over on estradiol and ultimately not dialed in, at which point you're going to have to fucking make a reduction in the cream dose, to 5 pumps or 4 pumps or whatever. So why not just start at the low end so that then after 2 weeks or so, say when you're totally steady state on everything, you can just run estradiol sensitive and see exactly where it is, then determine, do I move up a pump or more? Now, with HCG, this is what I found. With the low concentration cream, this is why this is fucking one of the easiest ways to dial in libido and erections. You can use more HCG because you can use more aromatization, have that balancing act, if you will, with DHT, because cream produces a lot of DHT. At 125 IU of HCG per day, you're not going to aromatize a whole lot. You're looking at between 3 and max like 10 picograms per milliliter. But with 4 pumps of transcranial cream, 100 milligrams per milliliter, you're maybe aromatizing 15 picograms per milliliter, and you're having a lot of DHT. So you're going to need to get the estrogen up to 25 to 30. You know, for some guys, I'd say max cap it at 35. You don't really want to go above 35, frankly. So, I mean, if you're on 4 pumps of cream, you could run 200 IU of HCG. You could run 250. You could run 300. You could run 350 IU of HCG. It all depends on where you aromatize on that 4 pumps of cream. But if you're starting low on cream, you have some room to dose more HCG. And the thing that I found, here's a major takeaway, is that if you can dose pretty high HCG and your TRT protocol is situated where estrogen's not going to go over range, meaning you have like a low enough dose of the injectable or the cream in this case, it ends up being better on sexual function to have more HCG and a little less test. Just a side note for folks that I've observed over the years. 2 weeks goes by on that protocol. Say you run 4 pumps of the transcranial cream and 200 IU of HCG. 2 weeks goes by, head to Quest, head to LabCorp, get total TDHT if you want to see them, but importantly, get estradiol sensitive. If you're between 20 and 30 and sexual function's fucking awesome, that's it. You're done. Go live your life. You're dialed in. Obviously, if sexual function's not perfect and you're maybe around 20 in estradiol or lower, like if you end up at 18, those of us that don't aromatize a ton, me included, a lot of other folks included, 18 to 20 might not be the best range. I personally need to be 25 to 30. I mean, that's just where I'm fucking awesome. I am perfect at 30. I am also pretty perfect at 25. I'm fucking epic at 27. Anyway, you just change the doses in small amounts. That's another reason this is so fucking awesome, because you don't have to change doses in significant amounts. I mean, if you end up at 20 picograms per milliliter estradiol and like erections are probably going to be fucking stellar at that point, but libido's not great, you probably need just a little bit more estradiol. So in that case, you don't take more cream if you're dialed in that way, and total T's 600, 700, 800, wherever it ends up. And DHT is definitely, at the top of the range or maybe over. You just bump the HCG dose up. You just bump the HCG dose. So run 275, 300 IU, give it 2 weeks, let everything stabilize, go run estradiol sensitive again. You're probably going to find it being at 27, 28, or 30. Well, then you're fucking dialed in. That's it. Then you go back to your life. You go work, you go game, you do whatever it is you do, and you don't have to ruminate about your TRT protocol, which is something I know a lot of you guys are doing, because I know how hard it can be if you don't have the right information to dial in libido and erection. So take another example. Say you want to shoot for a higher dose of the cream instead of 4 pumps of the 100 milligram per milliliter. So you do 5 pumps. Right? That's equivalent to 2.5 pumps of the normal concentration, 200 milligram per milliliter stuff. Again, that's the stuff that's normally standard prescribed to people. So then you're at 5 pumps of the lower concentration stuff, which is the equivalent of 2.5 pumps of the higher concentration stuff. There, still, you're going to be pretty goddamn close to your range in estradiol, unless you're an over-aromatizer, which is like you got a ton of body fat, you smoke a lot of pot, you drink a lot of alcohol, and you really don't take care of your body. If you've got hypothyroidism or something, which is rare, obviously. I think you would know that by symptoms if you had that. There, maybe a little more modest on the HCG dosing because you're pushing the lever on estradiol, maybe 150 IU per day. You see where you end up, 2 weeks later, even a week after. Again, based on the steady state of this stuff, you can run labs at a week, but I would give your body a little time to adjust, analyze your symptoms, then reassess at the 2-week point rather than waiting 7 weeks, which you would have to do with Cypionate or Enanthate. Go run estradiol sensitive at that 2-week point, see where you are. With that dose there, 5 pumps of 100 milligram per milliliter cream, you're going to be right around 30 of estradiol, 30. If for some reason you're over, call it like 40. Again, that's an exaggerated response to that dose of testosterone and HCG. It could do any number of things. You could reduce that back down to 4 pumps of cream, or you could reduce the HCG to 100 IU a day. That's still baseline going to cover you as long as you're injecting every day for most people on HCG. And then again, you just move stepwise in one direction or the other to tightly dialing and using the legend, if you will, like the informer of blood work on estradiol to tell you where you need to be, to tell you where you are and how to make adjustments. Side note, a lot of you guys, some people have come to me running HCG monotherapy, someone recently, couldn't dial it in, had windows that were great where sexual function was awesome, but they were fleeting, so they ultimately went away. I asked the guy, okay, where's estradiol? You've looked at that, right? The answer was, I don't know. And no. Boys, you've got to be looking at the estradiol. That is your legend, like a map to tell you what to do. Again, shooting for the thing you have to shoot for, which is estrogen in range, 20 to 35, and enough DHT, preferably toward the high end of the reference range or just slightly super physiologic. All right, so those are just two examples. You might ask the question, do I have to do this daily? Well, with cream, yes. I mean, it just leaves the system really quickly out to do it daily. With HCG, people are like, for convenience sake, I'd rather dose like 3 times a week or every other day or something. You guys have to forget about that. Who cares? I wake up in the morning, at the current moment, I'm running cream, HCG, DHA, B complex, lecithin, vitamin D, a few other things, but like nothing substantial. Fucking rock hard erections all night in the morning. I'm insatiably horny. Yeah, everything just works. I'm running everything every day. And for reference, my dose is 5 pumps of the 100 milligram per milliliter stuff and 330 IU of HCG. I find that the lower doses of test, that's kind of my sweet spot in HCG to make everything work. Testicles stay functional. The hormone microenvironment, meaning test, DHT, estradiol, obviously DHA, pregnenolone, progesterone production, neurosteroid cascades are really good with somewhat higher doses of HCG for me personally. I never go under an estradiol and then start having symptoms of that, like lower end libido, or like I urinate all my fucking water out if estrogen's too low because I can't make any antidiuretic hormone or enough of it when estradiol, which helps you make that, is super low. So I end up in my range, of 25 to 30 of estradiol, lots of DHT, and I feel fucking phenomenal. But that is where I would start. If you look at all this, steady state in 7 days. You can run labs at a week and a half to 2 weeks. You can look at pure data, which is your legend, which informs you on what to do and how to change things. Make small little micro adjustments in either the cream or the HCG and dial in rapidly with libido and erections. As I said in the beginning, listen, not everyone wants to go at this alone. If you're a busy person and you're a business guy and you have the budget and you want an expert to dial you in and architect both your protocol and the adjustments to structure it to facilitate high level, a young man like libido and erections, that's what I do. 95% of my work is fixing libido and erection issues on HRT and from people that use hair loss drugs. You can book me in under a minute, livecortex.com on coaching. We're on the fact-finding call as soon as 24 hours later or that day. And then, brother, we begin. It is 50% off right now. I've extended it because people are dropping off this month from coaching programs that have lasted 6 months or 3 months from the summer. I've got slots open. 50% off, thousands of dollars you're going to save. Book right away, livecortex.com. I reach out to you personally to schedule the fact-finding call, and then we begin. Source list, if you need to get access to any anabolic you can think of, including the high-potency DHT stuff. Again, you can get the 20% DHT gel and then reconstitute it to make a milligram a drop. It's the easiest way to dial in. Otherwise, on TRT, if you need the added DHT. Source list, 30% off right now. There's a code on the screen. Find it down in the description of this video. And lastly, Mastering Testosterone Cypionate. Video course for libido and erections, creating that with a format that shows you how to do it on Cypionate, livecortex.com. All right, now that we reached the end of the video, and like the video, because guys, I was away in Florida for weeks. The algorithm, we just got, sub to the channel. God, my brain is just shut off right now. Hold on. What is wrong with this chair? God. Damn it. Sorry, boys. I'm sorry. Yeah, like the video, please. It makes a huge difference. Sub to the channel. Fastest growing YouTube channel on Mike. Forgot the mic again. I just slipped my mind. I didn't sleep well last night. Let me just grab it. Give me this! God. Why? The video's over. Thanks for watching, boys. Been a pleasure hanging out with you. Yeah, please like the video. Makes a huge difference. I mean, you guys contribute to the growth of this channel by watching and by liking the video. Share it if you'd like. I mean, I know that's an extra piece of work, but I'd love for you to do it if you have the time. Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Otherwise, sub to the channel. Yeah, we're a fast-growing TRT YouTube channel. We talk about the scientific part of this, but focusing on libido and erections, that's one of the hardest things for folks to dial in. I'd love to have you on board as a subscriber. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on. Enjoy the rest of your day. More content coming this week, live stream this Saturday, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time, somewhere in that time frame. And boys, I'll talk to you in the next one.